Today is December 5th, 2025, and this is Read Through the Bible
Recap edition.
Special Recap Edition.
Right.
So, after every chapter, we try to step back and just say, okay, what is it that we read? Sometimes we preview the chapter for you, but here we are in the end of 1 Kings. We finished that this morning, and here this afternoon, we want to just step back from 1 Kings and just say, what was 1 Kings all about?
Right. So...
And the biggest,
look
broadest...
at the really big picture, simplest summaries.
Yeah, if you look at 1 Kings, you can cut it in half. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. First half.
1 through 11 is about Solomon.
And the second half?
Is about the nations of Israel and Judah, the divided kingdom.
Yes.
And it goes back and forth.
Yep. And so, like, if you can help... Even if you, like, stepping back from 1 Kings, if the only thing you remember about 1 Kings is 1 through 11 is about Solomon, and then 12 through 22 is about the divided kingdom, or Israel, Judah, like, that would be a big help.
Yeah.
Like, if you hear some cross-reference in 1 Kings, say, 15, you're like, oh, that's got to be during the divided kingdom. That's either talking about Israel or Judah. Mm-hmm. If you hear something like from 1 Kings chapter 7, like, oh, that's got to be Solomon. Mm-hmm. So that even that, like, helps, you kind of puts you in the historical context of what's happening in the day.
Well, if we step back further... 1 Samuel is basically about Saul. Mm-hmm. 2 Samuel is basically about David.
Yep.
1 Kings, the first half, is about Solomon.
Yep.
The second half is about the divided kingdom. And then all of 2 Kings is about the divided kingdom.
Yep. So that's a big help, right? Mm-hmm. 1 Samuel, Saul, 2 Samuel, David, 1 Kings, Solomon, the first half.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to zip through these chapters, and we worked through to just have a summary as possible. I mean, I was aiming for 5 words or less. Sometimes I have up to 7, I think, but just really trying to crunch them down. And so the idea is here, even on a really small card, a 3x5 card, you can write down all that's happened at 1 Kings. I have one card kind of to show you and read through it. I mean, we could read through this in a minute probably about all that's happening.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you with some of these micro summaries is even to take some time to work to memorize just real basic things about these chapters, just so you kind of can associate a chapter with kind of what's happening in that. Like even you've done a little bit of that, right?
Yeah, I have. I haven't gone to the extent of putting it on a 3x5 card and memorizing it, but I think that I do work hard to try to remember what some of the key things are in each chapter, or what the key chapters are of a book of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, like, I'm not preaching and teaching the Bible like you are, but I think it is still really helpful and valuable for me because it helps me understand the Bible at a much deeper level. It helps me see connections when I'm reading something and I think, oh yeah, I read about that. Rather than just saying I read about that somewhere, I know where I read it, rather than having to look it up. It helps me see patterns, so maybe like I see the promise to David come up again and again and again, and I know, oh, that was 2 Samuel 7. Mm-hmm. It solidifies it better in my mind, and I think it helps me internalize it and just know it at a deeper level. Mm-hmm. And I think then it's like, it adds a layer of color and vibrancy and depth to the Bible that you don't have if you're just kind of reading it through the surface and not making those connections. Yep. And not having those hooks to hang it on. Yeah,
and I think for me it's all about hooks.
Yeah.
Right? So when you memorize some things like chapter 6 of 1 Kings, where the temple's built. Like, okay, there's like a hook. Mm-hmm, like we're in 1 Kings, that's about Solomon, and 6 is the temple is built. Mm-hmm. And dedicated in chapter 8. Like, okay, so there's some hooks, and then when you get these hooks in the Bible, then you can hang more thoughts on that. Also, that when you lay your head down on your pillow, you can think about 1 Kings, and the Bible meditation becomes easier. Maybe not on specific verses, but on the general story of the Bible really helps.
Right.
Okay, so we've got to just plow through some of these chapters. So we really tried to push to get proper names in here because, like, for instance, chapter 1 is about what?
That's about Abishag, then Adonijah usurps, and Solomon crowned.
Yeah, so when you hear Abishag, she was the virgin who lay with David to keep him warm, and so this is where it occurs. 1 Kings 1, Abishag.
So Abishag means David was old and dying.
Yes, yeah.
Right. I mean,
And then Adonijah usurps, meaning that he took the kingdom for himself. And a lot of times this is sort of code words that you may not realize what's happening there, but maybe you can look to your summary, and your summary explains a little bit more. But these are like to just spark your remembrance. So Abishag, Adonijah usurps, he usurps the kingdom, and then Solomon is eventually crowned. And that's where Solomon and Bathsheba went in to talk to David, and they said, hey, do you know Adonijah made? Oh, I didn't know that. And then Solomon's made king, and so Adonijah's in trouble, which he deals with in chapter 2.
Okay, chapter 2 is Solomon deals with Adonijah, Abiathar, Joab, and Shimei.
Okay, so these are just 4 names, and like they're just to remember. And if you know the story well enough, you know Adonijah is the one who made himself king, and he then asked even for Abishag for a wife. And Solomon said, yes, for the kingdom as well. And so he had him killed, and Abiathar was the priest.
He's a disloyal priest, disloyal to David. These are all David's enemies or people who were a pain to David.
Yeah, and so he just banished Abiathar, and Joab, he was the commander, he had him killed. Shimei, he just basically said, you need to stay in Jerusalem. So he dealt with them all in different ways, but kind of when he took the kingdom, he had to deal with the enemies of David. Okay, chapter 3.
Chapter 3, Solomon asks for wisdom and judges wisely.
Yep, asking for wisdom rather than wealth, and then judges wisely with the women.
Yeah, and the baby.
Yep, and chapter 4.
Solomon's workers, wealth, and wisdom.
Okay, it's really easy. Chapter
That's
4.
The W's.
Workers, wealth, and wisdom.
And that's just like really laying out how great Solomon was.
Yep. Okay, chapter 5.
Hiram supplies wood for food.
Okay.
Like in exchange for food.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the supplies for the temple. So this is really building up to chapter 6 where the temple is going to be built.
Okay, that's 7.
So
chapter 6.
The temple is built. 7, Solomon's house. And then Hiram's furnishings.
For the temple.
For the temple, yeah. Maybe Hiram's temple furnishings.
Yeah, and so even if you're looking for like a big, like whatever, you circle all of these chapters together, like 5 through 8 deal with the temple. In 5, there's this deal that Solomon makes with Hiram, king of Tyre, up in the north, and they had a lot of wood up in Lebanon. And so he said, hey, can you give wood? He said, yeah, I'll give you the wood, and I'll give you some labor if you just feed us. So he did that, and they built the temple in chapter 6, and they finished it, the furnishings in chapter 7. And then chapter 8 is a big chapter where
Solomon dedicates the temple.
Yeah. So like 5 through 8 have all to do with the temple. So if you just even remember that, okay, 1 Kings 5 through 8, oh, that's all temple stuff. And that would be fine to work to memorize as well. Okay, and then chapter 9.
God warns Solomon, and Hiram displeased.
Yeah, he's warning Solomon about keeping the covenant, and your people will go forever. Don't disobey, and of course he does.
Right, and it's not really a warning at this point because Solomon's not being disobedient at this point and then receiving a warning. It's just kind of part of this dedication, and God is reminding Solomon with a warning that Solomon, you should obey me. Don't disobey me because it'll be bad for you.
Yep.
So,
and then Hiram is displeased. He's displeased with the 20 cities. Okay, chapter 10.
10, the Queen of Sheba visits Solomon.
Yeah, but here's remember, Queen of Sheba, chapter 10. And so what's helpful about that is that then when Jesus speaks about the Queen of Sheba,
right. And then you can think, oh, that's in 1 Kings 10.
Yeah, 1 Kings 10, boom. And then it kind of brings you back. Wait, 1 Kings 10. That's the first half. That's dealing with Solomon.
Right,
course,
right. And that it's not just for the sake of the trivia of knowing, that fact, but it helps lock it into where it fits in history, in the timeline of the nation of Israel.
Okay, chapter 11. And this was logical, chapter 11 here.
Right. Solomon's wives turn his heart away.
And logical, I mean by logical, 1 Kings 1 through 11 is about Solomon. So chapter 11 is the last chapter about Solomon. He's got to go bad. And so that means that I remember the story about all these wives, all these concubines he had, how his heart was turned to the gods of these women, and his heart was turned away, and then he died.
And that's how things ended for him.
Yep. So 1 Kings 1 through 11 about Solomon. Now we see then 12 through 22. So you think about 12. Okay, if this is the divided kingdom, in chapter 12 is where it divides. In chapter 12, the summary is...
Rehoboam is harsh. Jeroboam builds calves.
Okay.
So Rehoboam is Solomon's son. He's the one who is harsh. Most of the tribes left him, and they went to follow Jeroboam, who built calves for basically idol worship to keep the people from going back to Jerusalem.
Yep, and if you remember, his harshness says because he listened to the young men rather than the old men. It says, almost hard. I'll make your way harder.
But it says that was of the Lord.
Yep.
So.
And one thing that we didn't include here in the summary, and this is just something you just need to know, is that Jeroboam had 10 tribes follow him. Rehoboam had 1. Just Judah in the south. That's 11. And
so you could, this would make it longer than 7 words, but saying that the nation split in this chapter is a big part of the chapter.
You could say that too. Yep. Okay, chapter 13.
Okay, 13, the man of God and the old prophet.
Yep. So, like, this is just naming who it was. So here you need to know the story about the man of God who is going to come.
He's warning Jeroboam.
Going to come and warn Jeroboam, and then he goes, and the old prophet deceives him, and then he's eaten by a lion, and all that sort of thing. But this is the only chapter where the man of God and the old prophet are both in the same thing. So that should stir your heart to remember that was the story behind that. 14,
old Ahijah condemns Jeroboam's house.
Yeah, and this is when Jeroboam's wife came, disguised herself, and basically he said, Jeroboam, your dynasty is going to be cut off. But not in your generation, but it will be cut off. Okay, and then chapter 15 and 16, this is where the kings just come massively. And so for summaries, we've just kind of put down their names.
Just the names, yep.
So in chapter 15, the names are...
Judah.
So these are the ones in Judah are...
Abijam, Asa.
Okay.
And then Israel, Nadab, and Baasha.
Okay, so that'd be a lot.
2 and 2.
Difficult to memorize there. But if you've been listening to our King's song, that would be, of course, Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa. And Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Tibni, Amri, Ahab. Those are part of the songs. Those come in. 15 and 16 just talk about the kings of Israel and Judah.
So 16, you just said it, but Israel, and then it's Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Tibni, Omri, and Ahab.
Yep. Okay, and then chapter 17, 18, and 19 kind of go together. So, you can even circle all those three together and just put Elijah right next to them.
Yeah.
Because that tells the whole story of Elijah. And so chapter 17 tells...
He predicts drought and helps the widow of Zarephath.
Yep. And there's feeding by the ravens there. And this is in chapter 17 about the jar of oil and flour that never runs out. So there's a lot of detail there, but if you just remember... that there's drought, and then this widow of Zarephath. And what's helpful about this is even Jesus, when he preaches in Luke chapter 4 to Nazareth, he says that Elijah, who did they come to? The widows. Oh, that's a widow of Zarephath. Oh, Elijah somewhere, 1 Kings 17 and 19. What is that? Oh, yeah, it's 17.
Well, I'm just thinking right now, James talks about Elijah's prayer, right?
For
being
rain.
Effective, yeah.
Yeah, for rain. And so you're like, oh, that's got to be Elijah.
Yeah. Oh, that's 1 Kings
17,
18, 19.
Yeah, somewhere in there. But 17 is he predicts drought and he helps this widow. In chapter 18.
18, Elijah defeats Baal's prophets and kills 450.
Yeah. That's the big showdown, kind of like the middle chapter.
This is a famous story about
If
Elijah.
you know that, right, they altar and they threw their
the
animals on it, and they said, whoever gods brings down fire wins, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, 19.
Elijah flees. God promises 7,000.
Okay, so if you remember, in his fleeing, he's fearing Jezebel, who just said, I'm going to kill you today, and he was on Mount Horeb for 40 days. And when he was alone, I'm the only one, he threw his pity party, and God says, no, there's 7,000. So 17 through 19 is all about Elijah.
And 18 is the peak, but on both sides of it, Elijah is fleeing for his life.
Yes. And then 20 through 22, this is all about Ahab. So you can just kind of circle those. And so even if you memorize just even first 11 chapters about Solomon, chapter 5 through 8 have to do with the temple. And then coming down here, 17 through 19 is Elijah, and 20 through 22 is Ahab. That's going to be immense help to you. And I just encourage you, it may be not, it's this book, but we're preaching the Gospel of John. I put pictures for you every time we've preached about different chapters. You just work to memorize those and just see how well that helps you in understanding.
Yeah, so it's not fuzzy and cloudy.
Right.
Or it's less fuzzy and cloudy, maybe.
Okay, so let's read these three chapters, 20, 21, 22, all about Ahab.
So remember, he was married to Jezebel, and she was a wicked Baal worshiper. So 20, Ahab defeats Ben-Hadad 2 times.
Okay, and so that's when Ben-Hadad said, oh, well, they defeat us because he's the god of the mountains. Well, he beat him in the plains as well.
21, Jezebel kills Naboth for his vineyard.
Yeah, so 21, if you just remember, Naboth's vineyard, that's right where there it is, and Jezebel shows how wicked she is. And Ahab, you remember, just wanted that vineyard, and he said no, and he's like, but what kind of, you need to man up. So she went ahead, killed the guy, and so he get his vineyard.
Okay, 22, Micaiah predicts Ahab's battlefield death.
Okay, and we read that this morning for you.
Yeah.
As Micaiah stood up against the 400 prophets who all were saying, go to battle, he said, well, you're going to die. And Ahab says, no, I'm not going to die. And he says, well, we'll see. And he died by this random arrow. Okay, and then really 2 Kings picks up right where 1 Kings ends, right after Ahab and Ahaziah reigning in Israel. Then we're going to pick that up in 2 Kings.
Yep.
Okay, we will see you tomorrow in the Proverbs. We're Proverbs 15 tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye.